Good evening. Welcome to the Red Wing League of Women Voters Meet Your 2022 candidates. My name is Tina Langton and I am a member of the Executive Committee of the Red Wing League of Women Voters. Thank you for coming. We'd like to give a special thanks to the candidates for being here and to our co-sponsors, the Red Wing Area Chamber of Commerce, PR55 Red Wing Area Seniors, Citizen Climate Lobby, Resilient Red Wing, and the Prairie Island Indian Community for helping us bring you this event. At this time, I would like to introduce our moderator for this evening's forums, Lisa Bailey.
Thank you, Tina. Thank you everyone for coming tonight and welcome to the 2022 Meet Your Candidates event for the League of Women Voters, hosted by the League of Women Voters here in Red Wing, Minnesota. I have to say it's a great honor to be here tonight. I know just how hard it is to be a candidate, and I would want to ask everyone to join me in welcoming our candidates tonight for the first of our two forums tonight. We have our candidates for sheriff, candidate Marty Kelly and Joshua Hanson. Each candidate will have 90 seconds to make an opening statement and 60 seconds to respond to each question I ask. Candidates will also have 60 seconds for a closing statement. Time is being kept by Randy Decker. The county attorney candidate, who is running unopposed, will have an opportunity to make a statement at the end, and I will introduce him at that time. After the closing statements, there will be a 10-minute break while the stage is reset for the State Legislative Forum. Please join me one more time in welcoming Goodhue County Sheriff candidates Joshua Hanson, Marty Kelly, and Goodhue County Attorney candidate Stephen O'Keefe. All right, we'll begin with opening statements, first from Josh Hanson, followed by Marty Kelly.
Good evening and thank you for everyone showing up tonight. I'm Josh Hanson. I'm running for Goodhue County Sheriff. I've got 2 decades of combined law enforcement, military experience. I'm a proven leader, not just in the military, but in law enforcement. I've worked both municipal and county law enforcement, worked multiple facets in all those agencies. My objectives are pretty simple. I want to bring leadership to Goodhue County for the entire public safety effort. And I want to bring a new vision and a new perspective for law enforcement moving on to the future. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you to the League for having us tonight, and thank you for everybody for coming out. My name is Marty Kelly. My wife and I, Mary, live in Hay Creek Township. We have 5 adult children, 2 grandchildren. I've been in law enforcement for 5 decades, 34 of those in the Goodhue County alone, and 4 as your sheriff the last 4 years. I have a bachelor's degree from Mankato State University. And in 2018, I ran for sheriff and was elected. When I ran, I had a flyer that I made. And I had some guidelines, or not guidelines, but points that I wanted to accomplish, some goals that I wanted to accomplish. And I put them on a flyer of mine, 5 of them. And I'm standing here today to tell you, those promises and goals that I made for myself and for you, we have been successful in every one of them. And they are these. Unite citizens and law enforcement, improve communications with the public, enhance response to mental health and drug addiction issues, build relationships with other government agencies, and provide training and tools for law enforcement personnel. Throughout this next hour, I hope to expound on some of these goals that we actually accomplished, and I appreciate your time tonight and look forward to the debate. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to the first question, and I'm going to ask Marty to speak first, followed by Josh. What do you see as the top 1 or 2 law enforcement priorities in our county? How do you propose to address these priorities?
top priority in law enforcement today is mental health of our staff. In 2018 and 2019, when I came into office, not one of our patrol's deputies was trained in critical incident training. Not one. We now have 13, and every one of our deputies will be trained before I'm out of office. I tell people, we learned 30 years ago, or at least I did, how to put a gun belt on, how to put a vest on. What we didn't teach them was how to take it off when we get home. We need them to know how to talk about these issues that we see and be able to deal with it in a productive manner. The second issue that we face in Goodhue County and all around the state of Minnesota is hiring and retention, particularly in our adult detention center. We're not alone when I say we may be 6, 8 down at any given time, and every county in our area has the same issue. So those are the two main issues. Thank you.
Two top priorities in Goodhue County. Number one, as the sheriff said, mental health. Number two, drugs. We'll start with mental health. I break mental health priority down into several different key points. Number one, it's our own people. We have to take care of our people, both physically and mentally upstairs, so they can better take care of all of you. They have a complicated job, they're exposed to trauma, we're starting to recognize the effects of PTSD, and we need to make that a priority. A priority. Second is our response to people in crisis out in the community. Crisis intervention training is one. Responding to vets in crisis is another. And continuing the education and training program within the office to ensure that we are properly trained and well equipped to properly de-escalate a situation and ultimately save lives. Drugs. Needs to be a dedicated effort. Overdoses, methamphetamine. I'll stop here.
Thank you. Question number 2, we'll start with Josh, and Marty will go next. Many are concerned with increased gun violence in our communities. What can law enforcement do to help reverse this current trend and respond to the need for safer communities?
Gun crimes in Goodhue County are relatively low, but they do exist. Especially recently with the trend of influxes with methamphetamine, yellow narcotics in Goodhue County, we are finding more weapons with that. It's parallel, hand in hand. When I talk about increasing our investigations effort, not depleting it like it currently has been, that is one way to mitigate that. Another one is outside the box community intervention, understanding what is actually going on in the neighborhoods and the communities. That includes the townships and our small communities. The more we know from what the public is telling us, the more we're better able to effectively respond to that. We have to be aware of where we're at in the region. What happens in Minneapolis and St. Paul does impact us here locally in Goodhue County. We have to be aware of that, and we have to understand how to counter that. Same can be said about Homestead County and Rochester. Both those key geographical regions do impact us here locally, and it's situational awareness and being ahead of the trends.
I'll say this about illegal weapons in our area. An informed community or an engaged community is an informed community. And what we've shown in the last 4 years of community engagement, getting our people involved, getting our citizens used to our people, know who they are, to come to us with issues. And some of those issues may or may not be guns, but isn't it great where we live, Goodhue County? Some people ask me, what's the worst thing? And I said, well, drugs, possibly. That would probably be the number one issue. It isn't guns. Guns are way down the list, thank God. But we hear when there are guns out there, and we take responsibility for that. And we have a crack investigative unit that I will pay all day to take on those issues, and we're doing it well. Thank you.
Question 3, and this will be Marty, followed by Josh. How are mental health 911 calls currently handled in Goodhue County? What county resources will support the new 988 crisis number?
That's a great question. The best thing that I've done in 4 years was to hire a communications captain in charge of our PSAP, which is our public safety answering point. He has been instrumental in getting us up to speed with all of our technologies. As you know, we had 800 megahertz come 12 years ago, and all of that infrastructure is out of date, and he's been instrumental in getting that up to speed, and by the way, saving the taxpayers thousands of dollars in the meantime. But we are poised, and we are one of the best PSAPs in Minnesota and ready to deploy the 811 system, and my communication captain is on top of that every day, and he is actually part of a national PSAP organization, and we hear every day, if not once a week for sure, how Goodhue County is ahead of the curve in most counties, especially in Minnesota. Thank you.
Currently, the statutory requirements for receiving calls with mental illness through our PSAP or dispatch center is pretty vague. It's pretty limited. However, they do receive a known mental health call. They are able to transfer a individual to a help hotline on a voluntary basis. I like to look at this problem a little bit more bigger picture, because at some point, and a lot of times where we run into problems in law enforcement, is we still have to respond to this. And that's where I say we need to start looking at our own backyard to start finding some solutions and stop waiting for the federal government and the state government to make solutions for mental health. It needs to start in our own backyard here in Goodhue County. Thank you.
Thank you. This next one will be Josh, followed by Marty. With the political climate becoming more and more polarizing, citizens look to their local government officials for guidance. What is your plan to ensure the sheriff's office remains nonpartisan and acts as a resource and protection for all citizens, including citizens of color?
Plan is pretty simple. We got to facilitate a safe environment for everyone to exercise their constitutional rights. Most popular is freedom of speech. We most recently dealt with this in the city of Pine Island. I coordinated an effort down there to safely allow both sides of issue to protest. They were able to do that, lined up both sides of the streets, and we even allowed bottles of water for them. It is correct to say that the country is more divided now than it's been for a long time. Out canvassing, door knocking, I talk to people about that. Whether it's a relationship to, or more compared to the 1850s, or if it's the 60s or 70s, who knows? But the fact is, we're split right down the middle right now. And we're gonna run into issues all along the way here going forward, that there's gonna be two sides wanting to voice their opinions. But we have to make an environment that's safe for both sides to do that. Thank you.
We've shown multiple times over the last 3 years, particularly COVID and George Floyd era, we had protests in Red Wing and in other towns in our county. And law enforcement is and should never be partisan politics. We are the peacekeepers. We get called from both sides. We respond. We respond with common sense, and we treat people how we want to be treated. Now, we haven't had any pushback from any of the so-called protests we've had in the last 3 years in our county. In fact, I get phone calls often when we do have an event saying, "Thank you, Sheriff. Thank you for allowing us to voice our opinion, our concerns." And that's what we do. We are peacekeepers, and that is our job. Thank you.
Question 5 will be Marty, followed by Josh. What are the factors impacting staffing in the Sheriff's Department?
Well, again, thank you for where we live. Goodhue County is not inundated with too many issues, albeit I am short in the jail right now with 4 staff persons. We have been fully staffed in our patrol division for quite some time. We just hired 2 more staff members in addition to the one that's leaving in January. I was able to get an overlap. So we have staff. Since February or March of 2020, our jail staff has been depleted, and we haven't been able to get that back. We started unprecedented open interviews every Wednesday in our office, and we didn't get anybody to even lock in. Our process has been open for 2.5 years. Yes, we are getting those positions filled, and it's getting better. We can see the end of the tunnel here, or the light at the end of it anyway. So I'm very grateful for that. We are not suffering in that regard too much. Thank you.
It has been a rough 3 years, 4 years for law enforcement since post-George Floyd events up in Twin Cities. For the Goodhue County Sheriff's Office specifically, our men and women can handle the stuff that comes from the outside. The one piece that they do need is true leadership. They need someone that's going to stand up for them and someone that they trust. Currently, they lack that. We need true leadership for men and women to go out and protect you. And my fear is if they don't get that leadership from the top, we will start seeing some of these issues with staffing. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to go to the next question, and this will be Josh, followed by Marty. And it's sort of a 2-part question. How is diversity actively promoted in the department's hiring practices? Are there any currently bilingual officers in the Sheriff's Department? And if not, what plans would you suggest for hiring? So I'll repeat that. How is diversity actively promoted in the department's hiring practices? Are there currently bilingual officers in the Sheriff's Department? If not, what plans do you suggest to remedy that?
I can't speak for a fact as to how many bilingual deputies we may have in the office. I do know that we have bilingual deputy or officers out in the county who we have partnerships with and we can utilize if needed. As far as diversity, I think currently I can't speak for what we're doing. I'm not involved in that process currently. Moving forward, I think we got to go outside the box with our recruiting. We got to go for a lot of different demographics and locations for the recruiting effort to bring those in here, and we have to make it attractive for them to want to work here as well. Especially in the region here when we have a lot higher pay just north of us and not much more of a commute and to the south. And it's going to be hard to bring those candidates in. Again, it comes back to having the leadership and having the quality work environment here to make it attractive. Thank you.
Thank you for that question, Lisa. I did have the leadership to think outside the box. For however long the Sheriff's Office has been around, we have not opened up our hiring process to come on in and interview for us. That is something that is unprecedented. And now again, we're not alone. I'm proud to say we have people of color in our jail system doing very well. We don't have that many actually apply, honestly. But when we do, they get just as fair shake as anyone else. As far as bilingual, we had one very fluent in the jail and he moved on. As far as patrol deputies, I don't think anyone's bilingual if they know a little bit. That would be it. So we just have to have the people apply. We are reaching out in multiple areas. We're going to be having a recruitment video this fall. So we're doing what we can to bring people in. The market is just not there at this time. Thank you.
This next question will be first for Marty and followed by Josh. Some municipalities within counties are now dissolving their city police forces and negotiating with the county to provide law enforcement. Is this on the horizon for Goodhue County? If so, what issues does it raise? If it's not on the horizon, could you discuss the relationship between the Sheriff's Department and any city police departments? in Goodhue County?
Thank you, of course. I don't see that on the horizon for any acting offices at this point. The Goodhue County Sheriff's Office contracts with 4 cities in our county: Denison, Belchester, Pine Island, and Wanamingo. We have great working relationships. All 4 cities we are now on a 3-year contract. We updated it last week, or last year, I guess. Lisa, what was the second part of that?
It was to discuss the relationship with the city police departments and the sheriff's department.
Of course. So when I first got here, and I know I don't have many seconds left, but we weren't training with other police departments in our county, which didn't make much sense to me, because we were responding and they were our backup and we were theirs. We implemented training for the Goodhue Police Department, the Kenyon Police Department, and the Zumbrota Police Department, free of charge, to come with us and train with us. And that's the relationship building part of being one. Thank you.
As far as right now, I would agree with the sheriff that there's nothing immediately on the radar for future contracts. However, I think we need to be looking ahead, that it's always a possibility. As recruiting and retention becomes an issue even for the larger agencies, that situation amplifies for our smaller agencies, like our Goodhues and our Kenyons, and even larger agencies than that. So I think it's just something that we always have to kind of be looking for, and just maintain communication with the cities on that. And if it comes up, we have the discussions to establish a contract. It's happened before, and at some point it will happen again in the future. As far as the second question, as far as relationships with the cities, a lot of communication there. Could you repeat the question?
Just to discuss the relationship between the city police departments and the sheriff's department.
I was a patrol sergeant for many years out on the road, and I can say that operationally out on the road, the partnerships are great. And that would be something that I would bring to the table and continue to enhance. And key partnerships are going to be key to moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. This next question will be Josh, followed by Marty. When deputies respond to a traumatic crime of physical violence, what services can you offer to the victims? How are the deputies trained to do that? Would you make any changes?
Domestic violence situation is probably the most common with the services I provided. Every victim of domestic violence is given a card, and they were also put into contact with resources such as the Hope Coalition. I'm actually a federal law enforcement agency, a FLETC, certified instructor for domestic violence response and victim advocacy and support. And I think that comes into the training and educational component in our office to inform deputies of how to properly give guidance to victims or those that are subject to domestic violence. Even if there wasn't an arrest made, how can they escape a situation and establish a safety plan and get the safety? So I would say education and training on that piece is how we're going to do it, and just build on the partnerships with the different resources is what we'll be able to offer them. Thank you.
Goodhue County and the region, and particularly in Rochester, offers multiple services for crime victims. And again, as Josh said, we have cards in our squad cars. We have a phone number we can call. More importantly, I've implemented a chaplain program in our office. I now have 4 chaplains in our office. That's never happened before. We can call on them if we need somebody at the scene right away. They're on call 24/7. And not only are they for our victims, but they can be for our officers too. And quite frankly, I think they're going to be more beneficial to our deputies on the road than they will for victims. But we have that resource now, and I'm very proud of that. Thank you.
This next question will be Marty, followed by Josh. What practices are in place to immediately support deputies when they have been in traumatic situations?
Well, I love that question too. Prior to my appointment as the sheriff, all we had was employee assistance program, which is fine. They dial a number and call. But what we've done in the last 2 or 3 years, we've implemented a peer support program. We have a peer support team now, where it is your peers within the jail, within dispatch, within the patrol division. They all went to specialized training. Our deputies know that they can go with confidence and confidentiality to these staff members, and they know who they are. Secondly, we have a crisis response team from Southeast Minnesota that responds, and we have debriefings after nearly every critical incident, car crash, drownings, child deaths, and so on. So we have the resources now. Thank you.
I would say currently in the Goody County Sheriff's Office, especially for our patrol, we have no such support that is effective. The sheriff is right in that we attended peer support training. What the sheriff is not telling you is that there was no follow-through after COVID to actually implement in the office. At this point, it's a political speak. What needs to happen is we need to prioritize this. We have a chaplain program that we need to see further follow-through. For those that don't want the religious path, we need to also have other avenues for assistance. Other cities in the region, including here in Red Wing, have already implemented internally psychological support and counseling internal. They just prioritize and they put it in their operating budget. That did not happen here. In fact, we're still searching for grants, and that's not telling me that that's a priority. That needs to change. We need to take care of our people so that people can take care of you. That's also going to help on the retention piece and the burnout. Thank you.
Marty has indicated he will be doing a rebuttal statement.
So quickly, we can't blame everything on COVID. We have done everything that we can do with our peer support. And we knew going into this, because I talked to a good friend in State Patrol, peer support takes 2 years. 2 years to have our staff be ready to talk about it. And yes, I have it in the budget next year for a checkup from the neck up for psychology treatment or consultations with our deputies. $60,000. Yes, we are in a grant. We're trying to get a grant. If I don't, it's in our budget. Thank you.
And now we'll have, the next question will be Marty, followed by Josh. What are the biggest issues facing the jail, and what are your plans to address them?
Well, as I stated before, staffing currently is an issue. But what I am proud of is when COVID happened, we saw the writing on the wall that the state wasn't going to be giving us any more inmates, the DOC inmates that we had. At the time in March, we had 30 inmates from the DOC. And everybody was gonna shut down. What I did, we also had 7 staff members leave prior to COVID. What I did was shut a 60-bed unit down over there, asked the state to take back 15, and that I would keep 15 of their inmates. And we were able to do that without adding staff. Have we had to add staff this year now? Yes, I have asked, and was approved for 4 more, but we haven't been able to hire them yet. I'll stop there. Thank you.
The jail has always been a challenge. It always will be a challenge. It's the staff in the jail, as appreciated as they are, it is a difficult job. The work conditions are challenging, and it's just simply not attractive all the time. As far as fixing the issue, I do have a plan, and one of the key points of that plan is starting with inclusion. And what I mean by that is oftentimes in the sheriff's office we get broken up into our divisions and our sections, staff meetings and just meetings in general and trainings are a lot of times just done within the individual divisions. The more we can bring them in as far as one office, one team, I think that will help. Common complaint from staff members in the jail is they always feel like the outsiders. So I think that is just one piece of a plan. And on top of that, just leadership inside the jail as well. And from the sheriff on down, just making sure that they are treated good. Thank you.
And I apologize, I got out of order there with the rebuttal statement, so I'm going to ask Josh will take the next two questions first. What type of training for your deputies, or the deputies, is out there on the cutting edge that you would like to see implemented, and why?
Training and training requirements, they change weekly, if not daily sometimes. Right now, we need, the buzzword is de-escalation. De-escalation, again, crisis intervention training. I believe every single deputy, dispatcher, jail staff member, investigator needs to be at minimum basic CIT certified, crisis intervention trained. I also think implementing additional crisis negotiators even into the patrol level, just so we can quickly have another layer to help de-escalate a situation at 2 o'clock in the morning on the road. We need training that focuses on scenario-based decision-making training, and that includes jail staff members. We have to exercise ourselves under stress, and if we're not doing that, if we're just shooting on static lines, I don't believe that that's training. We have to exercise the decision-making process, because when we make mistakes, that's where we're going to make them, is in the split-second decisions. Whatever we can do to counter that potential for those mistakes is what we need to do. Thank you.
As I stated earlier, when I first got here, patrol, not one, was trained in critical incident training, and that is critical. We now have 13, as I said. We had several trained in the jail, and I didn't know why. Well, I knew why they were trained in the jail, but I didn't know why we didn't have any trained on the road. So we have implemented that. We have multiple crisis negotiators, 5 or 6, 7 possibly. And if we need more, we will get more. But as far as cutting edge training, we need to get to the basics. We have to just do law enforcement, how law enforcement is meant to be. We have all the equipment that we need at this point. At some point, the discussion will be about body cameras, and then we will have to train on that. Thank you.
And this will again be Josh, followed by Marty. What outside organizations does the Sheriff's Department actively work with, and how do you connect with them?
I'm currently the Goodie County Emergency Management Director. I connect with many federal, state, and local partners. That brings them into the law enforcement effort, fire effort, EMS, agriculture community. And as far as the Sheriff's Office specific on the road, there's a lot of organizations inside the city right over here. Hope Coalition. We have a lot of victim advocacies, services, as well as training consortiums and partnerships there as well.
We are involved in many committees and organizations throughout the county, just from Domestic Abuse Council to the Hope Coalition, Drug Court. And in fact, if we're not, and they reach out to us, I will find somebody who is interested in that particular topic and ask them if they'd like to join that group. We get requests quite often, and I don't know the number of outside agencies that we work with in Goodhue County specifically, but I can tell you that we are part of the Southeast Minnesota Violent Crimes Task Force, which I am on the board. We have two of those members on our team, and multiple other RCTC and the Minnesota Tech College. I'm involved in all of those as decision makers. Thank you.
Well, believe it or not, we've reached the end of our questions, and I'm going to ask our county attorney candidate, Stephen O'Keefe, to come and join the candidates for the closing statements. And we will have Marty Kelly first start. Well, let me look back at how we did the openings. Josh went first. We'll have Marty Kelly do his closing first, followed by Josh Hansen, and then at that time, the county attorney candidate, Stephen O'Keefe, can give his statement.
Well, thank you again to the league and for everybody coming out tonight. We had a lot of information. I didn't even get into statistics with you, but I have them all if you want to meet me later. People ask me why I want to be the sheriff again, or why in general do I want to be in law enforcement. I go back to my first week in field training in 1989. Me and my partner went to a medical call. There was a man down. We ended up doing CPR. It seemed like a very long time. That person died. And what happened next was we went to the mother and the children in the house and visited with them and were with them for a long time until the coroner could do his job. I didn't know how significant that was in my life, in my career path, until I got a card in the mail from the spouse a week later saying, "You made a difference in my life." That's been my life's calling. I didn't know I wanted to be a police officer when I went to college. I changed my major when I was a junior. But this is my life's calling, and I am going to be here for you like I was for her. Thank you.
Goodie County is my home, just like it's many of your homes. Family lives here, neighbors, friends live here. It means a lot to me. It's a very invested effort to keep this county and our communities within it safe. In order to do that, I believe that we need to really shift our priorities. We need to look at what's important now. We need highly trained, professional deputies, ADC, this is the entire public safety effort, and it's going to take leadership to do that moving forward into what we have coming next. This job isn't going to get any less complicated or any more easy. And we have to be looking ahead, and we have to start prioritizing the things like training, education, and standards for our public safety professionals. We have to start taking care of our public safety professionals, both mentally and physically. And I think our public safety professionals, they, at minimum, deserve leadership. Thank you.